Giro here for Umbra Games with a review of The Crew, played on PlayStation 4, but also available on Xbox One, PC, and also ported to Xbox 360. The Crew was announced in some of the first press conferences for the PlayStation 4, taking Ubisoft's established open-world adventure games into the realm of vehicles. In The Crew, you play as Alex Taylor, who after being wrongly convicted of his brother Dayton's murder, works undercover with the FBI to climb to the top of Dayton's motor club, called 510, and arrest the criminal element along the way. Since it's a motor club, of course all action takes place through races and checkpoint matches, and thankfully some destruction derby along the way. Now, the biggest selling point of The Crew is how the game world resembles a compressed United States. From New York to San Francisco, so many of these areas capture the region's unique flavors and architecture. Apparently, Kansas City is just a cornfield to these French developers, but hey, I understand it's a big country. You can access the map at any time using the touchpad to see where your current story missions are, locate other players, a handful per server, or find and check your progress on the game's hundreds of side events and landmarks. Using the common method seen in Ubisoft's other franchises, like Assassin's Creed and The Division, Alex can track down data centers to reveal a bunch of those side activities in each area. Now, the map has a couple of zoom levels, unfortunately without a lot in between. You're either very close or very far. You can fast travel anywhere you've been before, marked by the map being in color instead of grayscale. The load times of the map, both going to it and from it, are just long enough to be a little irritating, especially with your map avatar not showing which direction you're facing, making you go back to the car to help orient yourself, sitting through the loading time again. But with such a huge playing area, the fast travel is definitely welcome. You can set waypoints on your map, which will generate a line for you to follow on the road most of the time. Sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes it takes you in odd directions or places you can't go, though. We did suffer from some noticeable frame rate drops occasionally as well, a couple events worse than others, most often just around corners. You can form a titular crew with friends or strangers and participate in a variety of events together, including about 95% of the game's campaign story missions. When players reach an event, they can choose crew co-op, which instantly brings all players in their crew to that event. Afterwards, they'll be there at the finish line, removed from their original place. Since a lot of events are races, instead of necessarily being awarded experience and parts for placing first, most events are based on time and one other criteria, like time spent in first place. And you're awarded medals, bronze, silver, gold, and eventually platinum opens as well. You gain experience points towards Alex's level upon event completion, and are also awarded random parts based on how you ranked. Every time Alex levels up, he can put points into perks offered by various NPCs that include things like plus 1% to braking, or reducing costs of parts by 3%. One perk takes the already questionable GPS line and in events will turn it red in places it thinks you need to slow down. Don't waste your perk points. The parts that are awarded from events have a score value and you can equip them immediately if you so choose to level up that vehicle. This is where it gets a little complicated. There are 5 different specs of a vehicle: street, dirt, performance, raid, and circuit. Each has a character level threshold to reach before Alex can tune a car in that manner. Cars can be purchased from any headquarters, which then will fast travel you to the designated dealers somewhere in the country, where you can then spec out each vehicle in one of the 5 types. You can purchase multiple specs per vehicle and change it on the fly through the game's mobile phone looking menu. Now, each of the car's different specs have their own level. Each story event requires a specific spec, and if you're not in it, the game will automatically switch you to your highest level of that spec when you begin. The big question is how much cars' levels actually make a difference. Without seeing hard numbers, it's difficult to tell, but I will say engaging in a level 600 event with a 1000 car, sometimes you're still going to see the competition flying by. When I first played the game years ago, I seem to recall loot being specific to each event, but at some point over the last couple of updates and DLC that tries to get you to open your wallet, a quote, smart loot system was implemented, allowing you to redo events over and over and keep getting upgrade parts to your car. You can specifically tune your car as desired, including visual pieces and performance pieces, but I'm not sure White Gravy or myself ever saw a reason not to just auto-upgrade to the best part each time. Also a little unclear on why you'd bother buying parts when you now win them so frequently and upgrade cars so easily. Cars do show damage, which doesn't seem to affect the vehicle, and at the start and end of every event it seems to be restored to new, which makes the paid repair option via the mobile phone and headquarters menus a bit baffling as well. The story missions of the game circulate between a street race versus other cars, AI or other player, solo and crew races that give you just enough time for you or one of your crew to hit the next checkpoint to keep the time going, some to collect over 100 items by crashing into them with your car in a limited amount of time, Tailing missions require you to stay in a small radius of your target and smash the hit points out of your targets in a limited amount of time. Some missions are multi-event, but allow you to retry the part you're on the spot if it's not going your way. On a few occasions, it did seem like the AI could get confused, especially in the smashing missions, where they would start driving slowly until they found their AI path again, but those situations were kind of few and far between. Side events consist of 4 or 5 different kinds, including smashing targets, slaloming targets, staying at high speeds for a certain amount of time, following a racing line, or making really long jumps from ramps. You can redo these events as often as you like, and like story missions, award you with bronze, silver, or gold, or eventually platinum based on your performance. A lot of these side missions you'll begin whether you want to or not, as most of the start markers are placed on major roads. Just passing through the event marker starts it. After time runs out, you'll have to deal with some pop-ups and often go back to a quick black screen with your car completely stopped in place. There are a couple of paid DLC packs for those looking to extend their stay with the game, as well as PvP event to raise your and your crew's reputation across the country. Now, in addition to finding the data centers to unlock map locations, there are also landmarks you can discover, giving you a small bit of experience points with your view. You can also find hidden car parts from broken down wrecks. If you can assemble all 20 parts in a region, you can obtain a new car. When you're in the vicinity of one of these parts, and the data centers for that matter, you'll start to get a ping on your minimap and a color that shows red for far away and green for the closer you get, like a game of hot and cold. A lot of times you'll find your destination on the other side of a small river, or an indestructible fence, or at the pinnacle of some great mountain you have to drive around and find a way up, or you can just fast travel to it after you're close enough, thus bringing up some of the fast travel load time and direction changing frustration I mentioned earlier. Just trying to drive up those mountains, or even grass sometimes, is often nearly impossible with the physics of the crew. The United States is full of cornfields and mountain ranges and foothills, and when you have a world like that, you might try and make engagement with that terrain, especially in the proper vehicle, a little more enjoyable. I mean, cutscenes could barely control cars some of the time. But here's a common problem we see in adventure games with cars and a leveling system. I think most recently mentioned in my Watch Dogs 2 review. Developers make low-level driving suck to make you feel like you're progressing as you reach a competent spot after leveling. Low levels are exaggerated so much that you couldn't be a 40-year-old looking man or even have passed your driver's test if you drove like this. Not just that, but a car that performed like it was constantly on ice wouldn't even be allowed on the road. I understand from a design and leveling perspective it makes sense. You need to feel better the higher level you are, but this level of exaggeration has to stop. If you can't engage people in the first couple of hours of your game because of it, you're gonna lose them anyway. Now, I could be recalling it wrong, but it seemed when they first started talking about the crew, they seemed to be hinting at a sort of class-based approach, where each member of your crew could serve a different purpose in mission completion. Having a heavy for big hits, a performance car for speed, but the finished product ended up feeling a bit generic overall. With pretty bad car control, an overly complex and overall seemingly meaningless leveling system, exaggerated bad driving at low levels, some occasionally sketchy AI, and some frame rate drops otherwise in a giant world with a ton to do, a 20-plus hour co-op campaign in a world that captures the feeling of tons of environments around the US. Rated as an open-world racing game, the crew places a 43 out of 100, with 50 being an average game. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. As always, feel free to hit that subscribe button for notifications of new videos, or follow me on Twitter @Umbra Games.